Hi, Sagittarius, Sun and Rising. Welcome to your May 2023 Astro Update. It's Rena here. Ooh, so lots of stuff going on. And, we're in the midst of eclipse season. This time in Scorpio, last month, or when I'm actually recording this, even coming up and it hasn't even occurred yet. I don't like to pretend, maybe because I'm a Sag, I like to be straightforward with people. So let me just say it as it is unfolding for me. I'm recording this on the 14th of April, and there is going to be a solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Aries on the 19th or 20th, depending on where you live. And that is falling in the 5th house for Sagittarius. Now, if you're listening to this, I guess you'd call it a podcast, before the actual eclipse, understand that this is the second new moon in Aries in a month. I can't remember. I always think, is it a dark moon or a black moon? I think it's called a black moon. But anywho, because it's at 29 degrees and like 50 minutes, so like basically almost 0 degrees of Taurus, it's considered a karmic degree. And how I would interpret that, I don't know exactly why. I heard somebody say that and I glommed onto that because I heard another astrologer describe the 29th degree as the lessons that we have learned with transits in that particular sign. So it's kind of like building up this knowledge base or this wisdom. And so in a sense, we could call that karma because karma means action. And so, like for instance, the first eclipse was at 0 degrees of Aries. And so it was really enhancing this idea of, totally new beginnings, uncharted territory, because Aries is also the first sign of the zodiac. And it's known as a pioneering sign. So when it's at 29 degrees, we're talking about the ending. And, some of you may have heard about Sabian symbols. I remember checking that book out of the library, and I don't know if I buy all that stuff. It's kind of, I don't know where they get that from, but I mean, it's interesting. You can see what your, I never know what to call it, date, when you're talking about the number. I thought date was the whole thing. Like if you're born on the 10th of a month, for instance, that's your number that you can look at and see what it represents, or the degree of sun sign that you have, for instance. But anyway, so let's talk about some of these transits that are occurring. On the 1st of the month, Pluto retrogrades at 0 degrees, 22 minutes of Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is a friendly angle to Sag. This is a 3rd house for Sag. So this is going to be a very powerful period of time for Sagittarians to communicate. And it's going to be quite an extensive time to the tune of 20 years. I haven't looked at the exact dates when the transit is occurring, or maybe I just forgot about them, because I do know that Pluto is retrograding back into Capricorn twice, in 2023 once and in 2024 once. And so by November of 2024, that's when it's going to stay in Aquarius for good. So that's when it will start to really make forward progress without having to worry about it going into another sign again. But because it's a 20-year transit, it's going to be quite slow. I mean, if you think about it, since there are 30 degrees, including 0 degrees, that's considered 1 degree. That's like just a little bit over a degree a year if you divide it. So that's not very fast. But I don't know if they're counting this year as part of the 20 years or not. I'm not quite sure about that. Maybe it'll be 19 years in 2024. Who knows? But that's neither here nor there. I will be quite elderly by then. But anyway, so Pluto is an outer planet, so it's not like we talk about the influences of having, for instance, whatever your sign is, your Pluto sign in your natal chart, but the house placement is important and the transit house is important. No question about it, because it personalizes that experience for you. Now, I'm going to talk about Pluto retrograde in the second house and how maybe you can work with this energy, because I'm actually getting kind of excited thinking about it, to tell you the truth. I wasn't really paying attention until I pressed record about how this was going to play out for Sagittarius. And this is actually going to be my solar chart, not my natal chart. So it's very important for people listening to this with the sun in Sag to, figure out what your rising sign is and, get that chart together so that you know where it's going to transit in your natal chart. And you can listen for that particular reading. But anyway, this can apply to either sun or rising Sag. And when Pluto is retrograding, it really can be a time of going within as it pertains to your personal power and to shadow work around a particular issue related to that house. In this case, about money. And this could be even, I was just listening to something when I was out doing the laundry, and that's what I like to do. And you can do this if you like to walk. I like to walk, take walks. You could call it like power walks, where you're just listening to money mindset, manifestation mindset stuff, or just a mindset attitude in general. Positive thinking, is also what they call it. But in terms of money specifically, because that's what the second house represents, and how, like, I was listening to this thing, and the woman was doing light language, which is these codes, and they can affect us on an energetic level. Now, whether, I think, it would really be what the Christians, the fundamentalist Christians, would call speaking in tongues, actually. It sounds really like that. I know there are different light languages out there, but you can find them very easily on YouTube. And just being open to it, even if you're not sure you buy into it, just being open to it is so great. But this is about personal excavation, your attitudes about money, possessions, and whatnot. And this transit, I don't know when Pluto's going direct, but it will last for months. So just keep that in mind. Also about your self-esteem or self-worth. That's second house too. And sometimes these things are connected. People who don't feel deserving of abundance may find that when they raise their self-esteem, they attract money easier. When they attract money, they feel like their self-esteem is raising. And so it's like they're interconnected. We're not talking about being materialistic. It can be a fine line, because some people who feel lack consciousness, they're obsessed with having money. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because some people will do not so good things just because they're so obsessed with getting money. And with this retrograde, this is something that you can undo. Some of those feelings, desperation is a fear-based energy. So, so that's going to happen on the very first day of the month. Now, this is during a Mercury retrograde. So there's already this kind of reflection or rethinking of things. Now, it's in Taurus, and this is a big player in the month of May, not surprisingly, since the sun is in Taurus as the month begins. These personal planets are in Taurus, and it's like, no shit, Sherlock. I'm sorry to swear, but anyway, the Taurus for Sagittarius is the 6th house, which, like the 2nd house of earned income, is an earth house. And actually, Taurus rules the 2nd house, and Virgo rules the 6th house of service to others, otherwise known as work, your health, and your daily schedule, how you order your time. These are important things that are going to come up for you in one way, shape, or form in the month of May, Sag. So this is about rethinking it. You might kind of try looking at your schedule, maybe tweaking it, looking at different versions of it. I've actually started doing that. I was writing this down yesterday because obviously if somebody works from home, they do have a little bit more flexibility with this. If you work outside of the home and let's say you're working a 9-to-5 job, yes, I realize that you cannot necessarily schedule anything between those hours. However, some people who, let's say they want to meditate, they can, or maybe exercise. If they have, let's say, an hour break at lunchtime, they might say, instead of going down to the faculty lounge or to going out with coworkers, I'm going to eat my quinoa because I'm also changing my diet, and my green smoothie or whatever you're having. I'm going to have that, and I'm going to sit in nature because I want to get out in touch with nature more. And then I'm going to take a walk every day, and I'm going to get like a half hour walk after I eat, before I go back to the workspace. There are still times, or maybe you're going to leave earlier for work and you're going to work out, whatever, or you're going to walk to work and you're going to allow more time. Walk home from work, who knows, bike. So that is going on as the month progresses. On the 5th, we have a lunar eclipse at 14 degrees of Scorpio. This is the 12th house for Sag. Now, again, we have to understand that this is a general reading. For some of you, maybe it isn't in the 12th, maybe it's in the 11th house, okay? Whatever it will be, you will have, or you have had something like this, because you're going to have lunar eclipses in every house. So I'm just going to talk about it from that perspective. A lunar eclipse in the 12th house is like, and it's in Scorpio, is very, very freeing as far as I'm concerned. It's about letting go of karmic baggage. And this is also the house of self-undoing. So this could be letting go of an addiction. Now, again, because it's a lunar eclipse, it might not be that you're just sitting there releasing it, because you may not have that sense that you are doing this. This is something that is coming, so you may feel like it's coming from outside of you. And I use the example of someone, and this has been in one of, like, if I read an autobiography or a biography of a famous person, like a celebrity. My books are like rock stars and things like that. And they had like this terrible addiction and they went to rehab like 10 times. And then one day they woke up and they just reached over and they threw their drugs into the toilet, or they threw their alcohol, they poured it down the sink. And these kinds of things do happen. Even if somebody tried to go to rehab a gazillion times and it didn't work, because the timing wasn't right. When the timing was right, it did take. So, keeping the faith about that kind of thing is super important so that you're able to believe that you are capable of experiencing freedom from an addiction, what have you. It can be done. And you are worth it. You are really worth it to take care of that. But you have to be open to receiving. So you don't, necessarily have to do anything on your end, but just, maybe you could meditate on it on the eve of the eclipse and just ask for release of what this means. Because again, like, to me, this feels so much like a full moon or a lunar eclipse. I'm sorry, like, this feels to me like a purge, because Scorpio, that's what Scorpio is about purging. So this could also bring out secrets, because Scorpio is like that, but so is the 12th house. So again, secrets, do they happen every time there's a full moon? Well, maybe to somebody. They happen all the time, even when there's not a full moon, to people. But we don't have to freak out if, we find out something that we didn't know before. It's actually quite good to find out things that we didn't know, because then we are not left in the dark anymore. So that is happening. And let's see what else. On the 7th, Venus goes into Cancer. So this is on the other side of Gemini, which means it's in the 8th house. Venus in the 8th house can bring money to you in the form of other people's money, okay? So, Scorpio, by the way, rules the house of shared resources, or, in the case of other people's money, this could be a spouse, an ex-spouse, a relative who has passed on. So Venus in the 8th can be money from someone else, okay? Venus in the 8th house can also be soulmate stuff. So if you are with your partner, you may be getting even more intimate. Some people, and I'm one of those people, have been with their partner for many years. So it's not like you haven't been close to that person, but you are maybe you're spending more quality time with them, and you're really, what's the word, like, I was going to say bonding, but more than that, like, you're really feeling that love at a soul level, okay? And I would say like the reason I said that it's not just like because like the seventh house is the house of marriage. Well, there are people who are married and they barely see their partner because let's say that one person is working nights and one person is working days. I know I've seen like on YouTube and just people talking and they have different shifts and maybe they have a child and one person takes care of the child during the day and the other one takes it at night. And I think to myself, what kind of a life is that? I'm not, you have to understand, I'm a Sag, Sagittarius can be kind of judgy, judgmental sometimes, or outspoken, and I have the moon in Virgo, so that doesn't help matters. But I don't mean it like in a terrible way. I just mean like, you know, it's just like having children. When you have these people that are so important in your life, spending, time with them is so what it's all about, right? So anything that keeps you apart from that person seems like that is the thing that should change, not that we just accept that that's the way it has to be, because then we don't, we only have so much time to be with these people. And it would be nice to, actually spend that time. So I think you're going to be doing that. On the 14th, Mercury goes direct at 5 degrees, 51 minutes of Taurus, almost 6 degrees. And so in that area of your daily schedule and things of that nature. So again, this is not necessarily this big of a deal. Oh, well, Mercury in the 6th house, you may be, thinking, do I really want to do this type of work? It could be something like that, and then you make your decision. But things get sorted out. On this, and then I have been saying that I believe that May is the story of 2 months. The first half and the second half, and the second half might be more flowing easier because there is no retrograde happening. Okay, well, the Pluto's retrograde, but I'm talking about personal planets. And on the 16th, Jupiter goes into Taurus. So Jupiter is going into this very practical 6th house area. So Jupiter is joining Uranus in the 6th house. So Uranus and Jupiter, to me, are very compatible because Uranus rules Aquarius, Jupiter rules Sag, and those two signs are compatible. They both love freedom. They're both prophetic. They're like, they are looking to the future. They're not looking to the past. And as it pertains to your work and your schedule, this could be the shape of things to come, where you are really expanding a role that you have in your service, your whatever that service is, and how that is manifesting will depend on the individual, obviously, but it could have a strong impact with practical matters. If you are somebody who works for someone else, this could give you even more work opportunities. I think this would be true of anyone, where maybe even if you work for yourself, you might say, hey, I'm going to get a little side gig going on. Nothing wrong with picking up an extra job. And you will feel this sense of, it'll feel good to you, and doing so can open doors for you. I started to do Jupiter readings about Taurus, about the transit through Taurus. So check my channel for updates to see, what's going on. Subscribe, see if they actually, put it in your feed. But anyway, on the 19th, you have, and that could be good for your earning power too, by the way. On the 19th, there's a new moon at 28 degrees of Taurus. So here's more Taurus energy, a late degree new moon. And in that 6th house, that's kind of showing that there is some kind of developments with career, not career, but work matters. Or health, like you may feel like you want to start a new regimen. On the 20th, Mars goes into Leo. What's nice about this is that Leo is a fire sign, like Sag, so it trines us, whether you're sun or ascendant. So that is, compatible energy. So that's wonderful. It's going to be for Sag in the 9th house. That's the house that we rule. So Mars in the 9th house can give Sages, I do see this as a writing house. It's more like publishing, but to me, that's an extension of writing. And remember what I said, that Pluto is in that 3rd house. Of course, it is retrograding. If we just look at it symbolically as being in the 3rd house when it's retrograding, you may be even revising something to make it more impactful as writing. Or maybe you need to kind of boost your own sense of your own confidence as a writer. The 9th house is long distance travel, though. So that might be something that you have wanderlust, that you want to travel. And so if you have that sense of urgency, you may actually make it happen. On the 21st, the sun goes into Gemini. So this is the opposite sign of Sag. And then, of course, you're going to have other transits through this house as we get into June. Now, Mars was in that house for 7 months, starting in August and ending in March of this year. August of last year, March of this year. For some Sages, this might have been a legal battle that you just did not want to deal with, because it was contentious or just, it was protracted. Now, you have the sun here. That's very positive. And this is also the house of public relations. So this may be a time when you're making more of a name for yourself, or you can promote yourself better. All right, that's what I have for you guys, you fellow Sages. Sometimes, have you ever heard when there was this one astrologer that I used to follow, and she always would say, "Hi, Saggies." I don't know why. I don't like to be called a Saggy. So I don't know if you've heard any astrologers calling us Saggies. I call us Sages, but I spell it Sadges, and I like to do that. I hope you have a great month of May. I'm looking forward to it myself. And if you would like a private reading with me, I have, I'm promoting my double readings because they are a great value and more comprehensive, but I do have standalone readings for whatever area. But my deep dive readings are an hour of natal chart analysis with an hour of transits for the upcoming 12 months, whenever those 12 months are. I just start with whatever month it currently is and then bring it out a year to kind of talk about some of the important transits that I see and how that affects you specifically. That's called my deep dive reading. I have other readings. You can find out more information at the link below. I'm at RainaMoonAstrology.com. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.